Hello, everyone. This week's parsha is Parsha Mishpatim, in which we read about a lot of laws. And a question that jumps out immediately when one reads Parsha Mishpatim, especially with regard to the previous parsha, is what does this parsha have to do with the previous parsha? Why are they so inherently connected? Now, from the start, we can look at the first part of the pasuk of the first pasuk of the parsha, in which we read "Ve'ela המשפטים אשר תשים לפניהם." A lot of the commentators note that the first letter "ve" implies a conjunction, implies something that is a continuation of the previous clause. The previous clauses in Parshat that we read last week of Parshat Yitro, the Parsha concluded discussing the laws of the Mizbeach, though primarily the Parsha discusses the ideas that were given over at Har Sinai, the Adborot, and now it's almost a continuation of these laws, one could logically reason. Now, the Ramban is going to give a more precise answer for why these parshot are aligned one next to another. And through the Ramban's commentary, we'll reveal a little bit of the ideas that are brought forth in Parsha Mishpatim, how they're inherently connected to the Adborot, and hopefully we'll come home with a nice Shabbos message as well. Now, when we look at the Ramban's commentary on the first pasuk of the Parsha, the Ramban writes, Ve'ela המשפטים אשר תשים לפניהם. The reason why we start off, Ve'ela המשפטים אשר תשים לפניהם, כי רצה להקדים להם המשפטים, כי כאשר היה בעשרת הדברות, הדבור הראשון בידיעת השם. The first of the הדברות was the commandment, know God, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, והשני באיסור עבודה זרה. And the second one, with regard to the prohibition of idolatry. Now, what is happening? The Ramban writes, Chazer וצוה את משה, כה תאמר בני ישראל, אתם ראיתם כי מן השמים דברתי עמכם. Hashem says to Moshe, tell Bnei Israel that you saw me speak from the heavens. I spoke amongst you, with you. And now the Ramban notes that it's going to be a continuation of those commandments that were given. So specifically, the Ramban writes, and here's the key line, that these commandments that are given in this week's parsha align with the adborot. In what manner? The Ramban notes, just as the first of the adborot, that Hashem is speaking, Hashem, Yediat Hashem, however we translate Yediat Hashem, to know that God exists, to believe in God, is a direct parallel in contrast to the second of the Dibbrot, which is the Isur of Avodah Zarah, to not believe in other gods, the prohibition of believing in other gods. By having one God, you're inherently denying other gods, the belief in the one true God, in a sense. Now, the Ramban notes that the Parsha of Mishpatim, when it lists all these different mitzvot, the Ramban notes ve'ela hamishpatim keneged lo tachmod. These ones are aligned against the prohibition of lo tachmod, just like we had lo tachmod in the adborot. On the second half of the adborot, we have a prohibition to covet, that one cannot have jealousy and seek out other things that do not belong to him, in the sense that in a desire that is uncontrollable. However, we translate lo tachmod. In general, the Ramban writes, Ki im lo yada hadam mishpat habayit osada ushar hamamon yakshov shehu shelo v'yachmeduhu v'kachuhu la'atzmo. The Ramban writes, if one doesn't know the law of the land, the way of the land, the laws of torts and damages, and all the fields and property ownership, then what will occur? Someone will covet and desire someone else's property and take it for himself. From here, the Ramban notes, the two parashot are inherently connected. And I think a deeper message that perhaps we could reveal through this is that we have to have governorship, we have to have autonomy, we have to have courts. We have already seen the commandment for Dayanim, perhaps in the Shev Mitzvah Bnei Noach. So Bnei Israel is a nation now that receives these inherent dibrots, 10 dibrots, speaking to God and hearing God directly. They now need to have the common law established between them. True, there can be a God watching min השמים. True, God can provide the man and can lead the nation through the midbar and out from the crucible pot that was Mitzrayim. Though now, what are the people going to be doing? We read about Yitro last week and setting up the judges. Now the people need to have the way of the land and learn the way of the land for themselves. And this is a direct parallel to Har Sinai. And that's just one small connection. There are much more connections we can discuss in the parsha itself. Specifically, the Ibn Ezra notes the exact order of each of the commandments that shows up in Parsha Mishpatim. I'll pull it up over here. Then Ibn Ezra comments that all these different mitzvot are all connected. He starts off discussing why one mitzvah leads to the next mitzvah and keeps on going in his pshat. He connects every single mitzvah. And it first starts off with damaging you hit someone, and then it talks about not only if you hit him, but if you damage him and he has a financial loss, or you, in a sense, hurt him by removing either chain or an iron or tooth or an eye. All these other damages, and those lead on to these other laws, but then it leads to animal laws from animal damage and any other sort of law that comes up in the parsha, which is a lot of them that Ibn Ezra finds a direct link, though perhaps the Ramban's ideas, some of them we could take home, something that shows us that there is an essence to having all these important laws set up, in a sense, to prevent the tyranny or whatever sort of fear that can occur when there is no governing and no governance over people. Now that they are being set up as a people, they become a nation, they can now have these laws to follow, and hopefully Bnei Israel will be able to follow through and continue for generations going forward to follow these laws, study these laws, and to be able to internalize them to become a better people and a better nation. Shabbat Shalom.